When Allah removes something from your life, it is never a sign of rejection, but always a sign of redirection. We are quick to assume that loss means we are forgotten, that separation means we are abandoned, that change means we are cursed. But the truth is, Allah never subtracts without the intention of multiplying. He never closes without the intention of opening. And He never removes without the intention of redirecting. Every single removal in your life is a step ordered by God, carefully written into the divine script of your destiny. What looks like rejection in the eyes of man is actually redirection in the hands of God. We live in a world where our hearts grow attached to people, to things, to opportunities, to seasons, and when those things are suddenly taken, we cry, we fight, we question, we plead. We do everything we can to hold on, not realizing that what we are holding on to may be the very thing blocking us from the blessing ahead. Some of the people you thought would walk with you forever were only meant to accompany you for a chapter. Some of the jobs you thought would define you were only meant to sustain you for a season. Some of the relationships you thought were permanent were only assignments to teach you, to grow you, to stretch you, and then they had to leave. When Allah removes them, it is not rejection, it is redirection. Think back over your life. Think about the moments that broke you, the things you prayed would stay, but they slipped through your fingers anyway. At the time, you were crushed. You couldn't understand. You questioned the purpose. But now, when you look back, you see it clearer. You see that if that door had stayed open, you would have missed the one that changed your life. You see that if that person had stayed, you never would have discovered your own strength. You see that if that season had never ended, you would have been stuck, unable to grow, unable to step into the new version of yourself that God was preparing. What felt like rejection was simply divine redirection. Sometimes God has to pull us away from where we are so He can push us into where we need to be. We are creatures of comfort. We cling to the familiar. We don't like change. But God is not interested in your comfort. He is interested in your calling. And if He has to shake you, if He has to break you, if He has to separate you from the very thing you thought you needed, He will do it because He loves you too much to let you settle. What looks like loss is really protection. What looks like emptiness is really preparation. What looks like rejection is really redirection. You see, rejection only exists in the vocabulary of man. In God's kingdom, there is no rejection. There is only purpose. When someone walks out of your life, it is not because you are not enough. It is because their part in your story has come to an end. When you lose that opportunity, it is not because you are unworthy. It is because a greater opportunity is waiting for you down the road. When your plans collapse, it is not because you fail. It is because God is constructing a path that will take you higher than you could ever plan for yourself. Every closed door is a divine compass pointing you in a new direction. Every removal is a rerouting. Every loss is a lesson that carries you closer to your destiny. Stop mourning over what left and start rejoicing over what God is making room for. Stop questioning why it ended and start trusting why God allowed it. And stop calling it rejection and start declaring it redirection. Because when you understand that God is too wise to make mistakes and too loving to abandon you, then you will stop seeing endings as tragedies and start seeing them as transitions. You will stop seeing closed doors as punishment and start seeing them as protection. You will stop seeing removal as loss and start seeing it as preparation. You were never rejected, you were repositioned. You were never abandoned, you were advanced. You were never cut off, you were being carried forward. It may not feel good while you're going through it. It may hurt, it may confuse you, it may even break your heart. But pain is the price of progress. Transition is the road to transformation. What you are crying over now will one day be the very thing you thank God for. Because when Allah removes, He is not taking something away to leave you broken. He is moving you towards something that will complete you. Every time you feel the sting of something being taken away, remind yourself that it is not rejection, but redirection. Lift your head, square your shoulders, and walk into the new chapter that God is writing. Don't fight the removal. Embrace the redirection. Don't resist the change. Trust the shift. Don't mourn what's gone. Prepare for what's coming, because what feels like the end is really the beginning of something greater than you ever imagined. When your hands are full of what has already passed, you cannot receive what God is trying to place in your future. Empty hands make room for greater blessings. The challenge for so many of us is that we want to hold on and still receive. We want to cling to what is comfortable while praying for what is better. We want to carry the old while asking Allah for the new. But blessings cannot be poured into clenched fists. You cannot grab hold of tomorrow if you are still grasping tightly to yesterday. In order for God to release His greater, He often has to empty your hands first. We get so attached to the temporary that we forget it was never meant to last forever. People, opportunities, positions, even seasons of life, that they come and they go, they shift and they change. Yet when God begins to move them out of our reach, we panic, we fear, we grieve. But hear this clearly, the emptiness you feel in the moment of loss is not a punishment, it is preparation. Your empty hands are not a sign that you have nothing. They are a sign that you are ready to receive something new. Sometimes the best gift God can give you is to take away what you thought you could not live without, so that you can finally see that He is the source and not the thing you lost. Think about a child clinging to a broken toy. They cry and they scream because it is all they know, it is all they want, and they cannot imagine something better. The parent reaches out to take it, not to harm them, but to replace it with something new, something whole, something greater. But until that toy is released, the parent cannot place the new one in their hands. In the same way, we cling to broken relationships, to expired opportunities, to fading seasons, and we think God is being cruel when He begins to take them. But God is simply clearing the space so that His blessing can fill the void. Your empty hands are not a curse. They are a canvas waiting for God's masterpiece. There are blessings with your name on them, but they cannot enter because your hands are too full of things that no longer serve your destiny. That is why some doors had to close. That is why some people had to walk away. That is why some plans had to fail. If they had stayed, there would be no room for the greater blessing ahead. You cannot hold on to both the temporary and the eternal, both the lesser and the greater, both the expired and the promise. Something has to go so something greater can come. And yes, letting go hurts. Release is not easy, emptiness is uncomfortable, and transition is painful. But if you only focus on the loss, you will miss the gift hidden in the letting go. Empty hands may feel like lack, but in truth, they are proof of trust. When you open your hands and let God remove what does not belong, you are saying, Lord, I trust you to fill this space with something better. That kind of surrender is what unlocks the overflow. That kind of trust is what positions you for abundance. Your empty hands are God's invitation to pour out blessings that are pressed down, shaken together, and running over. But if you resist the process, if you hold too tightly to what is fading, you will delay what is greater. Think about the Israelites in the wilderness. They had to let go of Egypt, their place of bondage, in order to step into the promised land. But many of them kept longing for the old, even though God was preparing the new. They were physically free, but mentally still holding on. And that's where many of us are today, free in our bodies, but still chained in our minds, clinging to things God has already released. You cannot walk into the new with your fists clenched around the old. Sometimes God empties your hands not just to bless you, but to teach you where your trust truly lies. If you only feel secure when your hands are full, then your faith is in the blessing, not the blesser. But when you can stand in the presence of emptiness and still declare, God, I trust you, then you are ready for overflow. The blessing is not in what you hold, the blessing is in who holds you. And when you learn that, you will not fear empty hands, because you know that empty hands in the hands of God will never stay empty for long. You may feel like you lost everything, but the truth is you are being positioned for more. You may feel like you are standing with nothing, but God sees you as standing ready for everything. He cannot pour new wine into old wineskins, and he will not place fresh blessings into hands that are still clutching what has expired. Your letting go is not the end, it is the preparation for increase. Your surrender is not weakness, it is the setup for strength. Your empty hands are not lack, they are capacity being created for abundance. Every empty season carries the seed of abundance within it. Every time you release what is fading, you open the door for what is flourishing. Every time you unclench your fists, you position yourself to grasp something far greater. It may take faith, it may take patience, it may take tears, but trust that God will not leave your hands empty. Trust that if he took it away, it is because he is preparing to place something in your hands that will lift you, grow you, and carry you further than what you lost ever could. When Allah replaces, He does not simply exchange one thing for another. He exceeds every expectation you could possibly have. What you lose in one season is never equal to what you gain in the next. His replacements are not limited to the level of your imagination, because His thoughts are higher than your thoughts. His ways are greater than your ways, and His blessings always outsize your plans. You might be asking for restoration, but He is preparing elevation. You might be praying for something equal, but He is arranging something extraordinary. When God steps into the process of replacement, He doesn't give you what you had. He gives you better than what you lost. So often we approach life with small expectations. We think in terms of survival, while God thinks in terms of abundance. We pray for just enough to get by, but He desires to give us more than enough to overflow. We ask for the bare minimum, but He is planning for the maximum. That is why when Allah removes something, you must resist the urge to believe that your life will remain less. If it left, if it's because He has better. If it was stripped away, it is because He is clothing you with greater. His replacement is not just compensation, it is multiplication. Think of Job, stripped of everything, his wealth, his family, his health. From the outside, it looked like the end. It looked like devastation without recovery. But God never ends on empty. He restored Job not to the level he once had, but doubled it. What was taken was returned with increase. That is the nature of divine replacement. It always comes back greater, richer, deeper, stronger than what was lost. You might cry over what walked out, but when the replacement arrives, you will understand why it had to leave. You might question why you had to suffer through the emptiness, but when God fills it, you will realize His plan was bigger than your pain. So many of us settle too soon. We think the loss defines us. We think the absence is permanent. We think the story is finished. But God is a master author, and He does not close a chapter without writing a better one. What He removes is never the final word. The final word is always increase, always better, always greater. That is why you cannot let despair lock you in a cage of limitation. If He removed, He will replace. If He replaced, it will be better than you dared to expect. The reason His replacement exceeds your expectation is because He knows the depths of your need better than you do. You see the surface, but He sees the root. You ask for what you think will fix your problem, but He provides what will transform your life. You ask for a door, He gives you a house. You ask for healing, He gives you wholeness. You ask for a blessing, He makes you a blessing to others. His nature is abundance, and His gifts are always bigger than your prayers. That is why when you pray for restoration, don't expect Him to simply give you back what you lost. Expect Him to multiply it, refine it, elevate it until it surpasses your imagination. Many times, the delay between loss and replacement makes us question His promise. We think if it hasn't come yet, maybe it never will. But the delay is not denial, it is preparation. The reason it hasn't arrived is because what He is preparing is bigger than what you asked for. It takes time to build something greater. It takes time to align everything perfectly. It takes time to shape you so that when the blessing comes, you are able to carry it without collapsing under its weight. If it takes longer than you expected, it is because it will be greater than you imagined. Look at the patterns in your own life. Think about the times when you thought you would never recover, never laugh again, never rebuild. Yet here you are, stronger, wiser, deeper than before. The thing you thought was the end became the soil for a new beginning. The people correct. The people you thought you couldn't live without left, but their absence created space for healthier, truer, more purposeful relationships. The job you thought was everything ended, but in its place came opportunities that lifted you higher than you thought possible. Time and again, God has proven that his replacements outshine your expectations. That is why you must not cling to the mindset of limitation. Do not expect little from a God who owns everything. Do not expect scraps from a God who sets tables in the wilderness. Do not expect loss to define your life when the one who defines you is the creator of better. Lift your expectation because his replacement will always rise above it. He is not the God of equal exchange. He is the God of abundant replacement. When something leaves your life, don't shrink in fear, rise in faith. Don't mourn as though you have been left empty. Rejoice as though you are about to be filled beyond capacity. Speak over yourself that greater is coming. Remind your heart that his replacements exceed your imagination. And when it arrives, you will look back at tears and realize they were watering the soil of your blessing. You will look back at your emptiness and realize it was the preparation for your overflow. You will look back at what you thought was the end and realize it was only the setup for better